Welcome back to the deep dive. So we are jumping into a really fascinating body of source material today that I think completely redefines the landscape of health.
It really does. And we should be clear, this isn't a clinical deep dive. It's a philosophical one.
Exactly. We're analyzing an argument built around traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, that says learning this system offers a higher level cognition of life and personal liberation.
That's the mission. We're treating this as a philosophical text. The argument is that understanding the worldview, in TCM, they call it Zhangyi, is a direct route to, conquering modern anxiety and just the overload of information.
It's all about knowledge as the ultimate preventative care.
Right. It moves way beyond just, treatment protocols.
And to ground this, the sources right away clarify what they mean. TCM isn't just Chinese art or something. They define it as a commitment to direct centrality.
And most importantly, the doctrine of the mean.
Yes. So this isn't about any kind of extremism. It's about achieving and, obsessively maintaining yin-yang pingheng, the perfect balance of yin and yang.
That idea of dynamic balance, this constant calibration.
Yeah.
That's the bedrock of everything we're about to get into.
And what's key is that this balance isn't passive at all. It's an active process of self-governance.
And the first skill you need for that is actually really practical. It's about becoming an expert listener to your own body.
Okay, let's unpack that. The subtle signals. The source material really stresses paying attention to the body's delicate changes. The Wei Miao de Bianhua, this feels like where we as modern people, we fail first. We're sort of conditioned to wait for the alarm bell, not the faint whisper.
We are. And the sources, they immediately caution against the modern temptation, the quick fix.
Right, so you get a nagging headache or stomach ache.
Yeah, and the impulse is to just grab a painkiller, stop the discomfort. That's triage, but this philosophy sees it as a major tactical error.
Right, because you're not solving the problem. You're just silencing the messenger.
Exactly.
The sources have this fantastic visceral analogy for it. They argue that when you take medication without addressing the cause, you are, metaphorically, killing the signal soldier.
Wow, killing the signal soldier.
Yeah, you've silenced the symptom, the messenger, and now you don't have that information. You don't know the true cause of the illness, and the root issue just gets deeper.
It causes more damage, completely unnoticed, and that is the philosophical pivot the sources demand from you.
Yeah.
You have to move beyond focusing on the effect, the guo, the pain, the symptom.
They're really understanding and addressing the cause, the yin.
That's the shift, from reaction to wisdom.
But let me just push back on that for a second. In, a high-stakes medical situation, an acute one, sometimes you have to focus on the effect, to stop severe pain, to stabilize someone.
That's a crucial point.
How do the sources handle that? The need for immediate relief versus this deep dive into causation.
Right. Well, the philosophy doesn't totally reject immediate relief. It just frames it as temporary management. The argument is that the habitual pursuit of the quick fix is what stops the deep inquiry.
So it's about breaking a habit.
It's about breaking a habit and elevating the search for the cause to, a moral imperative. They sum it all up with this incredibly powerful proverb. Buddhas focus on cause, mortals focus on effect.
Okay. So to adopt this worldview is to consciously move out of that mortal, reactive perspective.
And into the enlightened, proactive pursuit of the root cause.
Yeah. So if adopting that proactive mindset is the first big lesson, then the second major argument is about the empowerment that comes from it. It's about reclaiming health sovereignty.
And the source material is very, very blunt here. It insists that we have to be the first person responsible for our own health.
The default behavior they're critiquing is this sort of learned helplessness, isn't it?
It is. We wait until a problem gets bad, and then, because we feel like we don't know anything, we abandon authority.
You turn over complete control to a so-called specialist. A stranger, really.
Just because they have the title. This philosophy says, no, true security comes from participation, not from abdication.
And if you think about it, that abdication is fueled by fear and by ignorance.
Right.
So the knowledge itself becomes like a vaccine against panic. The sources detail 3 really practical benefits. The first is proactive care. Learning this philosophy lets you do what they call nourishment before illness.
The Wei Bingzi Shi.
Exactly. You're actively reducing the chances of getting sick in the first place. You're maintaining the balance so the imbalance can't even, get a foothold.
And if you're doing that, the emotional payoff is just enormous. That's the second benefit. When problems do come up, because, life happens, that knowledge means your heart isn't anxious.
You have no fear.
You have no fear. You replace that moment of panic with, I don't know, a grounded curiosity about what's going on.
That promise of freedom from anxiety is huge, especially today with the constant bombardment of conflicting health info. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, where do the sources say you should even start? How does knowing this philosophy practically replace panic?
It replaces panic by giving you a framework, a set of principles that are constant, no matter what the latest headline says.
Can you give an example?
Sure. So say you get some sudden, unexpected joint pain. If you understand the principles, you know it often corresponds to like a seasonal change or some environmental factor. You don't immediately panic and think, oh no, I have a serious degenerative disease.
Right. You start by thinking about balance.
You start by adjusting your diet or your environment to rebalance those elemental influences. The fear it dissipates because you go from asking what awful thing is happening to me to what imbalance did I allow?
And that leads right to the third benefit, empowerment. You know how to solve the small problems yourself, and crucially, you know who to talk to and how to talk to them for the bigger issues.
You become an informed partner in your own care, not just a passive recipient of treatment.
So to sum that up, the source material says this knowledge is a deep source of security. It's a mountain to rely on.
It is, and that peace of mind, it goes beyond just you. It's for your family too, your parents, your kids. When they have a health issue, you feel equipped with principles. It grounds you. You're not just helpless.
That makes perfect sense. Health is stability, and stability breeds confidence. Okay, let's pivot to the third major concept. This one is really pointed at our modern urban lives.
Heaven-human correspondence. Tianren Shanyi.
Right. The idea that our personal health is, inextricably linked to the universe outside our body.
This takes the whole idea of imbalance out of the purely biological and puts it right into our environment. The source talks about this triangular relationship between climate, our emotions, and eventually disease. It says you just cannot separate the human body from its natural surroundings.
But the reality is that modern life actively separates us from nature. The source really hones in on the city dweller.
Especially in these forefront cities.
Yeah, they paint this picture of someone who goes into the office before sunrise and leaves after sunset. They literally don't see the sun all day. They're living in this permanently controlled artificial climate.
And that lifestyle creates a very predictable imbalance. The source categorizes that whole man-made indoor environment, the air conditioning, the shared stale air, as fundamentally yin.
Cooling, contracting.
Exactly. While the natural world outside, with the sun, fresh air, the seasons, that is yang, warming and expansive.
So if you are constantly living in that indoor yin-dominated situation, it's just logical that it leads to an internal yin-yang imbalance.
And the sources say this is the root cause of the modern mental health crisis. This structural imbalance is why we see so much unexplained anxiety, low mood, or chronic insomnia.
So it's not necessarily a personal failing.
Not at all. It's a structural imbalance caused by our environment. It's a profound disconnect. The constant indoors suppresses our internal yang energy.
The energy we need for warmth, for activity, for emotional elevation.
Right. And when that yang energy is suppressed for long enough, it starts to show up as stagnation or coldness. And that leads to those anxious, fearful, low-energy states.
So the analogy they use to drive this point home is it's incredible. They say, just as flowers and plants will wither if they don't get natural air and sunlight.
Humans will too.
Humans who consistently lack natural air, sun, and dew will also wither over time. And it's that slow withering that eventually forms what is called disease.
It links our emotional health directly back to our physical alignment with the sun and the earth. That's the high-level cognition they're talking about.
So your well-being isn't just about your diet or your workout plan.
No, it's also about whether you're interacting with the dynamic balance of nature. If you're always inside, you are functionally starving yourself of yang energy.
That is a powerful indictment of the modern indoor lifestyle. Okay, so for the final point, the sources frame this entire body of knowledge, TCM, as a form of cultural decoding.
Yeah, it's about opening up the secret history of traditional wisdom. It's positioned as a lifestyle and a philosophy, not just some treatment you get.
And learning it creates a profound internal shift that goes way beyond just health goals.
It does. Learning this philosophy, it changes your conduct. It fosters a deep humility. You start to reflect and you realize your own inner scarcity, your barrenness.
You realize you didn't know the world or yourself as well as you thought you did.
Exactly, which sounds like a prerequisite for growth, doesn't it? You're convinced you know everything, you can't learn anything.
So what's the observable change then, once that humility takes root?
The sources claim that aggressiveness or inflexibility, that tendency to be really dogmatic and rigid, it just naturally dissipates.
And it's replaced by what?
By reverence, by awe for all things. When you realize the incredibly complex, delicate balance required just to keep your own body going, you start to see the entire universe with immense respect.
Wow, that's a huge philosophical payoff. Moving from health management to, I guess, a kind of spiritual transformation.
It is. And that reverence leads to cultivating a submissive heart, which doesn't mean being weak. It means approaching life's events, good or bad, with acceptance. You stop judging everything so harshly.
You stop labeling things as strictly good or bad.
Right. You recognize the universe is a system of opposing forces, and resisting one part of it, even the painful part, is just resisting growth itself.
And the source material is very specific about that psychological shift. It says that a perceived bad thing, a setback, an illness, it might actually contain a gift.
A gift that promotes a deeper level of growth, yes. By resisting the struggle, you're actually rejecting the gift.
It forces you to step back and ask, if this setback is an effect, what cause did it illuminate for me? What imbalance am I now forced to address?
Precisely. If, say, a physical ailment forced you to leave the city and spend more time in nature, then the ailment itself was the gift. It forced the rebalancing that you needed.
And this whole process, according to the sources, it culminates in developing a compassionate heart. Once you truly see that delicate, often painful balance of life, that all beings are struggling, you desire to help. And you can do it without the judgment that comes from that old rigidity. You move from a state of intense self-focus,
Just trying to manage your own symptoms?
to a state of outward contribution, armed with this deep understanding of cause and effect. It's the ultimate journey from panic to peace.
All based on a philosophical approach to health.
That is a truly complete journey. So just to quickly recap this transformative deep dive, we've talked about prioritizing cause over effect. The Buddha's focusing on the yin.
We covered the necessity of claiming health ownership, becoming that first person responsible.
Right. And the critical role of the natural environment for our mental health.
Yeah.
And finally, embracing this entire system as a life philosophy, one that promotes humility, acceptance, and compassion.
This knowledge is positioned as the ultimate source of internal security and mental clarity. It's the shortcut to what the sources call that higher level cognition of life, something that can ground you when the world feels overwhelming.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on. If recognizing the cause, the yin, is the key to deep understanding, I want you to consider a challenge or a setback you're currently facing. It could be physical, professional, or emotional. What overlooked gift might that difficulty be offering you right now, forcing you to address a deeper structural imbalance in your life? What essential growth are you currently resisting just because you're still judging the situation as simply bad?